Our first year managing or running an architecture design studio taught us more than how to just manage projects. It showed us that many homes are designed to look good but not to live well in. And it reminded us that thoughtful design can genuinely change how people experience everyday life. Hi, I'm Prim Coronel, a licensed architect in the Philippines, to be specific dito sa Parañaque City. And I'm also the founder of Prim Architectural Design Studio. Before starting Prim I worked for almost 5 years into two different companies. One is mainly with construction and project management, and the other one is mainly architecture and interior design. And that's going to be under Lore Calma and under none other than architect Ed Calma. So what I became increasingly passionate about is really designing how people live. Kumbaga, how you function, no? Because how you function, tsaka yung iba mong mga neighbor, your friends are really probably different. Of course, there's going to be similarities in how you guys live. But each person, each individual, each family, each couple has their own way of spending time with each other. So that's really interesting with me. Getting to know the client deeply is something that became a part of, kumbaga, the main service of the architecture and interior of Primlikha. So sa unang taon namin, we worked with projects such as The Block. We also have Coronel Residence, Season, and Cosme Residences. And we focus on residential projects because gusto namin maging personal about how we design things. And so along the way, we gained and learned a bunch of things about architecture and interior design, of course, process, and what individual homeowners want. And we are emphasizing on individual homeowners because we truly understand that individually we have similar needs but different wants. And so in this video, we are going to be tackling about 5 of the most important things we have learned in our first year. So lesson 1, homes are more than just structures. And definitely that could be a common sense. But hear me out. A home is more than walls and just finishes or how it's gonna look like. Because it will actually shape how families interact with one another. You know, the rooms that we divide is how families are going to be isolated by one another. How families are going to celebrate, no? Or the main house or the structure is gonna protect you from the outside part of your house. No, those things really matter. And one experience that taught us this was yung first or second project ko, no? That's in Season Residence or S Residence. Our scope there was major renovation. We had this project, and actually it's one of the most complex projects that I've ever made kasi sobrang irregular ng house, no? And when I say irregular, it has kumbaga 45-degree walls. Hindi siya naka 90 degrees, and that's really challenging in our part, no? It was an existing house, so the clients are already staying there, no? The families, but they wanted more, no? They wanted an open space, and so those things really matter. Being able to adjust or to adapt to ano na ba yung kailangan ng nakatira, definitely. And so for homeowners, this means that you should be able to get definitely an architect or designer that's actually willing to go through what you really want and need. And definitely there's a lot more to share, no? Deeply share para maintindihan ng architect mo or designer mo kung paano ba kayo as a family. Kasi that's going to be a permanent thing, right? So make sure that when you're trying to get an architect, make sure that they really understand who you are. They are really taking their time to know how you guys live, how you guys do your stuff. So lesson 2 is process matters as much as creativity. Great design is not only about ideas. Definitely kung bata pa yung architect mo or di pa ganun karunong, no, it's not about just the drawings, no. We hear those things. Pero what's really important about this is that design or drawing is just really a small part of the equation. It also requires understanding, coordination, and refinement. And if we try to squeeze on that, ano nga ba yung totoong ibig sabihin nun? Or what does that really mean? You need to be able to have a mutual understanding. The designer and you as the client. Kailangan na nagkakaintindihan kayo on how you guys live, how you guys manage the budget. You need to also have a proper decision maker. You need to have a process internally. Those things really matter. A lot of things will really kumbaga may iwasan kapag ganun ang ating process. So one process problem that we encountered was decisions and unclear communication. So again, stressing on that part is when decisions are not clearly documented or kapag pabago-bago ng directions, the main project or your project, the future project, if you're going to be like that, if your architect is going to be like that, or your contractor is going to be like that, the project will suffer. So, yung ginastos mo na millions, it's going to really suffer. And I know that you're actually very excited to build your future home. Minsan lang okay if verbal, but in actual practice, approvals, documented process, and key decisions need to be documented properly. And I can't stress this enough again, we need to actually have a decision maker in the family. You cannot have a lot of different voices. That's okay kapag internally, but in terms of like what's the next step, make sure that there's really one voice. Kumbaga, what's gonna happen next? This. Para the project will go on smoothly. Definitely the lesson for you as the client is having a good process will actually lead to a healthy project. So make sure if you're trying to get an architect, a designer, you ask what is your process, no? Because I pretty much know a lot of people who wants to like skip processes. It's okay pagka nagmamadali ka, but then it's going to be your house. Lesson 3, tropical design improves daily comfort. Okay, so I'm talking to you, and because I'm an architect here in the Philippines, in the Philippine climate, orientation, airflow, and shading matter tremendously. We realize this definitely when there's a lot of people who are actually inquiring to us, and definitely you can have your own wants and needs, pero if you're just doing this for trend, if you just want minimalist kasi I've seen this in the Pinterest and it seems nice, definitely you can have a very nice interior that's Japandi and minimalist. But make sure, since kagastosan mo to you're going to be spending a lot of money here in your future home. So make sure, since it's sitting in a Philippine soil and you have definitely a tropical climate, you for sure know how much kung gaano kainit dito here in the Philippines and how much it rains as well kapag rainy season. So definitely make sure the architect that you're working with, di lang siya sabi ng yes, okay, whatever you want. But rather, whatever you want plus the incorporation of what we really need so your house and home can actually stay cool because it's very hot in there here in the Philippines, and so that we can actually survive the rainy season. So lesson 4, interiors shape how spaces feel. Architecture sets a structure, but interiors shape the atmosphere. Over the past year, I realized definitely that a home is not just about walls and roof. The materials, lighting, furniture, and proportion all affects how a space feels. It's very important to take notice of those things kasi it will matter. No? Once you have the shell or the structure that you have, it's still very important that you know how each spaces of your place, of your home, will feel. Through our design work, we saw how small details can completely change the experience of a room. Even just a small room. Even with the same layout, the right finishes and thoughtful interior decisions can make a space feel warmer, calmer, and more intentional. And those things, sometimes we try to do it as early as possible in our design stages. Sometimes people stress pagka malapit na sila magpagawa. But also understand that you can even hire an architect, even building your structure 6 months, 12 months, or a couple of years before ka talaga magpatayo. So it's very important to you have an architect, a designer, and it will actually help you with the budgeting as well. Lesson 5, last but not the least, is thoughtful design takes time. The best spaces are refined over time. One of the biggest lessons we learned is that good design cannot be rushed. One moment that taught us patience was seeing how each revision improved a certain project. Every round of feedback helped us, our clients, to do better, understand the client, and create a more thoughtful solution, may it be interior or the architecture itself. Taking time in design helps clients make better decisions and avoid regrets. So building a home bago ka pa magpatayo or to spend a lot of money, it's very important that you take time with your architect, with your designer. So it's very worth taking the time to do it properly. In building architecture, it's not just about the structure. It's about the journey, the process, and definitely the people involved. No? Sino ba yung makakatrabaho mo? Sino ba yung magde-design ng bahay mo? Sino ba yung pagkakwentuhan mo? Sino yung pagagastusan mo? Right? Those things really matter. Who you build your home with becomes the foundation of that home. Temperature, comfort, and intention all matter because a home is definitely one of the biggest emotional investment that you'll ever make. And so dito sa Prim Likha, we're dedicated to creating thoughtful, climate-responsive, and personal homes. If you value intentional design, follow along, and we'd love to share more.